Um,
Khushi,
Listening.
Khushi,
Yeah. Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Good evening to one and all present. Is my voice audible?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So I welcome one and all here to this webinar, Healthy Mind. And on an occasion of International Day of Happiness, SRM IEEE Affinity Group brings you this webinar. The theme of the webinar is mental health awareness. I want to introduce our guest speaker, Ms. Aditi Joshi, who is the director at Speaking Grey. Speaking Grey is a non-profit organization that was founded in April 2020 during the coronavirus lockdown time. Uh, Ma'am, if you can just mute your microphone, Vasanti ma'am, and just,
Yeah.
yeah, the voice is echoing actually. Just lean the, yeah, okay. So let's continue. So the firm Speaking Grey mainly focuses on emotional and mental well-being. It has three crucial projects that it's currently working on: mental health during COVID, student mental health, and importance of importance of mental health. Also, before getting the insights from our guests, I would like to ask Ms. Sangeeta ma'am, who is our SRM IEEE branch counselor, to speak a few words on the theme of today's event, that is, the importance of mental health. Ma'am, if you could please.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I welcome you all for this topic and seminar on mental health. I welcome Aditi. So, for your information, this is an event conducted under Women in Engineering. So, IEEE SRM student branch was started in the year 2017 with a motive to engage all engineering students to network among the peer institution groups, and they can interact with industry experts and young entrepreneurs so that they can get motivated and they can move forward in their life. So, as far as engineering is concerned, we are not just focusing on only technical knowledge, we also focus on the professional skills oriented skill sets for the students. So, to inculcate the professional skill sets like communication, event management, and plan of action for every event, we have lot of society chapters. One such vibrant chapter is this Women in Engineering, WIE, where we'll be conducting a lot of events regarding the awareness. We normally have some road rally to create awareness on wearing helmet, and we also conducted programs in association with NSS regarding this drugs, not to use drugs inside the campus, how drugs spoil the life of everyone, like that. So that was actually the order of the events when the students are in the campus. Now we don't have the students in the campus, only we faculty members are just coming to the college, sitting in front of the laptop and taking lectures. So normally we faculty members are also in a stressed out mood, because in real time classes we have students who will react to us, or we can just see their facial expression, and we can come to know whether they understood the concept or not. Now everything is in online mode, so we also, as a faculty member, we also sometimes get dejected just seeing some laptop camera, and then talking, delivering some contents. Are we doing the right thing? Are we actually delivering the contents in a proper way? So we don't have a closed loop system. It becomes an open loop when it is an online. We don't know how other end is reacting. So not only the students who are always listening to someone's voice on the earphone and get disturbed or stressed out, we faculty members are also one or other way in a low mode. Actually, the energy level of all of us during this pandemic was very low. So we don't know what to do next and what we are actually doing. So these are all the things going on in mind. So at this time, having a talk like this on mental health uh, awareness, or how to strengthen our attitude and mind, and how to keep the energy level up, may be a important topic to be addressed, and a topic to be listened. So I'm very happy to have you today. You can touch upon some of the examples, and you can give your talk as a motivational speech so that we get some energy and move ahead. So we don't know how long we'll continue in this online class. Even where the government says you can come to the campus, nobody is ready to come to the campus because they are used for this online class, and online examinations are more easy for them. But they are not understanding that they are losing their campus life experience during their correct age. So all that you can cover up in your topic, and you can share your experience with us, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Now you can proceed with your thing.
Sure, definitely. Khushi, Jasleen, is there anything you guys want to add, or can I start?
Ma'am, actually, Vasanti ma'am has to speak.
Kushi, listen, Kushi, I will give the vote of thanks towards the end.
Okay, ma'am.
I will just, talk to ma'am towards the end.
Sure, ma'am.
Ma'am, you can
Absolutely.
continue, and I mean, this is the topic that is required, and let us spend more time on listening to you.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much.
I will summarize this in the end.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you.
Thank you. So, I'll just present my screen, and I hope that um, it is visible. So, um, can you guys view my screen now?
No, share option.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it's visible.
Awesome. Okay. So, yeah, firstly, I would say that thank you to each one of you for, being here and for calling me. I think it is so important to be talking about mental health. It is as important as we take care of our physical health, but unfortunately, due to the stigma and due to, just how we are used to living in our society, we don't give it as much as important, as much as importance as we should be giving. If we get down with a cold, or if we get down with fever, we are super careful about our health. People around us start paying attention, whether it is our parents, our teachers. They tell us to take care of ourselves. But when it comes to our emotional health or mental health, also because it is little tricky to understand for self, like how you are feeling, and at the same time to communicate to another person about how you're feeling, all these things can make it a little difficult to understand that our mental health needs the same attention as our physical health. So, on the occasion of today, we are going to be talking about a lot on mental health and emotional well-being. It will be a very interactive session, so please, do type in your questions, and even at the end, if you want to ask anything, you can definitely direct any question towards me, and I will be more than happy to just share what I think. Through this entire session, I will try to touch upon some basic things. We will not make it very clinical and like a medical thing, because that is not the aim. We are only talking about our well-being, the things we need to do, the things we should be doing to take care of ourselves. So, like, just a couple of things which we will touch upon is importance of mental well-being, self-care, why taking care of yourself is important, and reaching out for support, because I think that is one place where people don't feel comfortable and confident. When it comes to reaching out for help, that is definitely a place where people hesitate. Asking for help for something else, for your homework and for your assignment, comes so naturally and so easy to us. But if we need help for something else, like, let's say, unable to do certain things, or just finding yourself demotivated to not be able to, like, study, so those things which affect you on an emotional or mental level, even those things need support. And if you trust someone around you, you definitely should be reaching out to them for help. So I'll start with the first thing, like, what exactly is mental health, because I think um, we may know it, but we somehow find it difficult to explain. Also, because of the same reason that we hear so much about physical health, so we know what physical health is, but we don't hear that much about mental health, right? So basically, mental health, what does it include? It includes emotional part, which is basically how I'm feeling, psychological part, which is my brain, how I'm thinking, and the social well-being, how I'm acting. So when it comes to an individual, it affects how you think, how you feel, how you act. There is no series, it is a combined structure, I would say. If you are thinking in a certain way, accordingly you will feel in the same way, and then accordingly you will act. To give a simplest of example, that if I think about finishing my homework, and I'm also feeling motivated, obviously I'm going to act upon it. And if we change the course, that means I'm not feeling motivated. So obviously I will not be able to, get myself to do my homework, and then automatically I will not be able to do my assignment as well. So it is a complete cycle of how you think, how you feel, how you act. That is what mental health constitutes of. According to World Health Organization, which is the one of the biggest health organization, how they define mental health as is that it's a state of well-being in which one person understands their abilities, and those abilities help them to fight with the normal stressors of life. Obviously, when we are living, all sorts of things happen. There are sometimes some things happen at school, at office, at work, at college. There are exams which you may find tough to study for. And what a good mental health will help you to do is that you will understand your abilities, you will understand your plus points and not so strong points, and accordingly you will plan your day or your activities to cope with those things. uh, an ideal state of mental health will help you to cope with anything and everything which comes your way. Obviously, as a human being, we get tired, we get exhausted, we feel demotivated. All of those things are extremely natural, and it is a part of life. But anytime you feel that your mental health has come to a state wherein you are unable to do normal activities, wherein it is affecting your day-to-day life, that is when you know that you need to take extra care of your mental health. That's a huge red flag or a signal that you are unable to do basic things right now. That means some part of your health, whether it is coming from your physical health or your mental health or both, needs your attention. Moving on to the next thing, which is because uh, it's women in engineering branch, importance of mental health. Obviously, mental health is important for every single person, irrespective of the gender. Any person, whether it's a man or a woman, a guy or a girl, a child or an adult, everyone can struggle with their mental health, and they need to take care of themselves. But when it comes to women professionals, I cannot highlight enough that women have to step up and take care of themselves. The kind of culture we have been used to, with our sisters, elder sisters taking care of all the younger siblings, or like, let's say, mothers taking care of the entire family even when they are sick. These are certain things which we have seen too often. And what happens is that as women, sometimes we get wired to take care of everyone else first but ourselves. So to every single girl, in this in this session, I think I cannot highlight enough that there is absolutely no hesitation and no guilt you should feel in taking care of yourself. And you should also encourage and empower other women around you, whether it is your mother, your aunt, your anyone, to take care of themselves. Because as the normal saying goes, health is wealth. I think you can't achieve things, you can't lead a normal, happy, or a healthy life if you're not taking care of yourself. So as women, we have to step up, we have to take care of ourselves. There are, like, I mean, variety of factors which can actually lead for women to be at a higher risk of a poor mental health when compared to men. And those could be anything. That could be like just an unfair environment at certain homes. It could be toxic workplaces. It could be like when we are in college, we don't see enough representation of women, especially in tech sector, and that can sometimes be a cause of stress as well, because you don't see more women around you, or you feel that as a woman you have to try harder to get to things, and everything else which happens, whether it is like our society having not so safe environment for women. Usually there can be a plethora of and a bunch of reasons which can lead to women being at risk of a poor mental health. And that's why it is so important for women to check in with themselves more, and also to make sure that other women around them are also doing that, right? And I cannot stress the importance of learning to draw boundaries, like knowing what is your boundary, like where you want to say no to people. I think it is such an important skill as a woman, because we end up saying yes to a lot of things. If someone asks us for help, we'll say yes. And yes, we should say yes to help people, but understanding that, where it is taking a toll on you and your health is also super important, because women are usually, they are expected to be more polite, they are expected to be more sweet. And I think that is something which is a great quality, but at the same time can be, unhealthy if you don't draw your boundaries. So drawing boundaries, learning to say no, is a very important skill which all of us need to learn. And obviously you can't learn it overnight, so you have to, practice it, you have to talk to other people, you have to see how others carry on with their things, and then learn from everyone else. um, Coming to obviously the very important topic which is ongoing, and that is the pandemic, which hasn't, stopped. We really don't know when things will get better, and that is something which is none of, that is something which is not in our hand and in our control. So firstly, what I would like to, mention and start with is that every single person has experienced a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress during pandemic. Either they have experienced it throughout, or they have experienced it pre-pandemic, or during the during the pandemic. That the time frame may differ, when I felt anxious and you felt anxious, but what is important to understand is that you are not alone in feeling this way. And what happens a lot of times is that our problem looks much more bigger to us when we feel that we are the only one feeling this way, or it is unfair to us. But unfortunately, we all are in this together, in this pandemic times, when things have taken a very different course, whether it is, online classes or online Zoom meetings, or like, let's say me doing this session with all of you through, through Zoom, wherein maybe, if pandemic wasn't there, we would be seeing more in-person interactions. So definitely things have changed, and when things change, the way those things impact us also changes. So if you have experienced a lot of stress, if you're feeling, I don't know what I will do after the pandemic, I don't know about placements, I don't know about internship, I don't know about, my master's degree, all of that, know that you're not alone in this. Everyone is experiencing those things. And because of a lot of uncertainty, we are unable to figure out how we have to go about things. Lack of social connection is definitely another factor, because when we meet people, when we talk to people, we understand there is so much relatability. We understand that our friend is also going through something, or we get a reason to celebrate with our friend. We see someone doing well, whether it's a family member or your loved one, and those small things just add to our daily life, and it gives us more to look forward to than we look for than than we have on our plate. So definitely these times have, made those barriers which are making it difficult for us. And at times you may feel that, okay, I really can't take this pandemic anymore, and I thought it would be over, within a few weeks, but 1 year and we are still here. Please know that a lot of people are feeling this way, and the only way to power through this is to, to be together, to keep our cool, to keep our patience, and at the same time to be connected with each other in whatever way we can. If you can't be in touch with your friends, physically, or like, meeting them in person, please stay in touch through text messages, through FaceTime, video call, whatever. But know that the power of community is so strong that you may not know who can help you out in that moment. Another thing I would really mention is self-care and checking in with yourself, your family members. Obviously, you don't have to take the responsibility of the fact that, okay, now I will make sure that, I am checking in with all my friends, or I have to make sure that my family members are, happy. Yes, it is all our, each one of us is responsible and accountable for our community, but at the same time, you should know that you don't have to put a pressure on yourself to make someone feel better. What you can do instead is, by connecting with others, you can sometimes motivate them to keep going in life. And at the same time, when we motivate someone else, we often find that we have motivated ourselves, by talking to that person. So when it comes to checking in, make sure, try to check in with your friends, see if some of your friend is distant, or they are in need, or they are going through something which they are unable to talk to their family members about, but they may feel more open to share that with with their friends. So that can be a great way, and a great practice, not something you have to do every day, not something you have to do count and do it. It is completely a personal call which you can do at your own convenience. Self care, when it comes to self care, I think it is so important. When you tell others to take care of yourself, you know why you are saying that. You know that it is so important to take care of ourselves, because that is something which doesn't happen automatically. Our bodies are designed to do everything, obviously, from from digestion to every single thing you can think of. But there is definitely an additional attention which is needed from our side, which we need to give to our body, whether it is the simplest of things, that have you drank enough water or not. If you're feeling very tired, understand why you're feeling tired. Have you eaten properly? Have you skipped meals? Are you working out or not? Is it like there have been too many days that you're lying on your bed, right? Because this online medium has kind of pushed us to a direction wherein we don't have to really step out of the house, because every single thing will happen over the screen. So there are different factors. Check in with yourself, find out exactly what is working for you, exactly what about this current situation is not helping you out. Is lying on the bed for a lot of like a long time is bothering you, then maybe try and change your place, right? um, the other thing I really want to touch upon is that reaching out for help and support is very, very brave. I feel that there is a lot of stigma attached, and there is a lot of hesitation attached to asking for help. Something which I was mentioning when I began the session as well, that we don't shy away from saying that, hey, can you help me in picking this bag, or hey, can you forward me your assignment, or whatever. But when it comes to us struggling in any way, whether it is that during the pandemic, someone close to you was extremely ill, or at any point you felt that there's no one you can reach out to, I think these are the times wherein you should definitely reach out to someone. There will always be that one person you trust, and I think you should share how you're feeling with that, how you're feeling with that person in that moment. So anytime, if ever anyone has made you feel that only weak people need support, or whatever, some people think, that is absolutely wrong. Every single person can do so much more and so much better if a little support is given. And it's only human to want and need support. Every person needs a little help, and I think that there's absolutely no shame in asking for help. And the last part about especially during the pandemic, what you should be taking care of, which kind of overlaps with the self-care part I was saying, is checking on for your basic needs, your physical, emotional, and social needs. They need to be met. As a person, when we are living, there are these three aspects of us which are so important. One is our physical body. The other thing is obviously how you feel, how you think, how you act. And the third thing is social, because we are social beings, we are human beings. We talk, we interact with each other, we have different relationships. We have different relationships with different people, and all these three things need to be met. The needs, the requirements, any void you feel needs to be met for you to feel ideally healthy or happy, which we say. Obviously feeling happy all the time is not possible. All emotions are valid, but to take care of ourselves, these are the three pillars which you can look upon. So when we say physical health, same thing, right? Like water, food. Do you have to go, go out for a hobby, or go for a run because you're feeling very lazy and very lethargic? When it comes to emotional needs, have you spoken to people in a long time, or have you only been interacting through screen? Do you need to have a conversation with someone who you can connect with? And then it comes to social, that when we are in the pandemic, we are in the quarantine, we are seeing the same faces every day. We are stuck with our family members, or like, let's say some students are stuck at in hostels. They are only seeing the same people every day. They are not getting access to new information, to meeting new people. So there comes the social aspect, where you can at least try. There are so many virtual groups, community groups? Do you want to volunteer somewhere? Do you want to be a part of certain cause? Do you want to attend these events which we have attended, right? These places will give you a chance to meet new people, to learn new things. So make sure that you are touching upon all these things when you are trying to figure out like what is not working out for you. um, Stress, depression, and anxiety, these are the three words which we have heard and read a lot, especially during last year and now this year. Depression and anxiety is definitely a very common and very prevalent mental health condition, which affects a fairly large population. But because of the pandemic, more people found symptoms of these three things in their everyday life, wherein they understood that they are feeling too stressed for a very long time, or they are feeling hopeless for a very long time. And that is why we saw a lot of attention being given to mental health during these times. Obviously, COVID has taken a toll on everyone's mental health for the same reason that there is a lot of uncertainty. People are not getting jobs. There is definitely a financial constraint at homes, and all the other things, your family members ill health and different reasons which can cause that additional stress for you. But especially for people who are living with a pre-existing condition, that means someone who already has clinical depression or someone who already lives with anxiety, for those people, these times have been super super challenging, because now they already had a condition, and now the additional extra stress has made the symptoms worse. So if you or anyone around you feels this way, please know that it is super important to take care of yourself, whether you want to just reach out to some family member, or whether you want to go to like a medical professional, which means a therapist or a counselor in your college. Do whatever you feel comfortable in doing, but do take care of yourself. And I cannot highlight this enough, that you are not alone. Even when you feel that you are alone, know that a lot of people feel this way. This is not to invalidate your feelings, but it is more to tell you that you can get through this, because a lot of others are also powering through this. And in the past, people have felt like giving up. They have felt very demotivated. And I think, all of us can look back to a time wherein we thought that this is the toughest thing we have done, whether it was an exam or it was a loss of something, someone which meant a lot to you. We always think that, okay, this is the worst which has happened in my life, and I don't think I will be able to do better. But we always are able to cope with it. So whenever those times, testing times come, try to remind yourself of all the times when you actually powered through it. And that can be like that little motivational voice from and within you, which has helped me a lot, and I hope that it helps others as well. A very important thing I would like to touch upon is that even if mental health is an alien concept to you, you do not understand it that well, it's okay. You don't have to feel guilty or feel shameful that I don't understand these things. But you can always put forward efforts to learn about it, because every single person has mental health. Yes, every person doesn't have mental illness, but every person has mental health, and that is so important. um, is my screen visible? Jasmine?
No, screen is not visible, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Someone else tried to present, yes.
Who is present? Your screen is still visible to others. I'm getting a notification that it is still visible. Could you, Jasleen, could you check? Or should I stop and then restart?
No, ma'am. Ma'am, it's actually visible. We just need to pin the screen.
Okay, could you?
And
Okay,
if you can just pin the screen,
okay.
presentation one.
Yeah, just a second. Can you now see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I was just saying that, even if these words are little new to you, depression, anxiety, and you think that a very small, margin of population feels this way, it's fine. It's really okay. And it's great that, your mental health has always been in a great shape, that you don't know others who are living with these conditions. But I think as young adults, as students of such a great college, it is so important that we make sure that we are not adding to someone else's suffering. That means if someone around you is feeling a certain way, and if you don't know the best way to talk to them, you can always show your silent support. But certain phrases, like, like, let's say, just like which we hear a lot, which includes that, you are just overthinking, you're just being negative, these things are only in your head, etc., etc. That is not true. Mental health is health, and every condition manifests into different physical symptoms. That means if you are stressing out a lot, you will see that during those periods of stress, your sleep cycle gets disturbed. One finds it difficult to either get sleep, or one will see that they are sleeping too much. So there is definitely like a disturbance in sleep cycle. There is disturbance in how you eat. Sometimes you feel like overeating, right? We say stress eating, and then we say that, okay, I had so much stress, mujhe itna stress tha, I ate everything, right? So what are these things? These are actually how certain things like stress, anxiety, and basically your mental health, which is affecting your actions and then your physical health. So even if you fail to understand someone else's mental health, the only request and advice I like to give everyone is that be patient with the person, and please refrain from saying hurtful things, because you don't know in that moment how that person is feeling. And your friend could, bring a lot of strength just to tell you that, listen, I've been feeling very low for a couple of days, and maybe you were their hope. And if you shut them up by saying that, oh, these things don't happen, or like, this is just like this, or whatever, you can invalidate someone's feeling, and that person may feel so bad that they may not able to reach out to another person, right? So I think that accountability and responsibility lies on each one of us, to make sure that, whenever we are talking to someone, we can be kind. And that is something which you can consciously practice. um, when it comes to about managing our stress levels, there definitely are certain things which each one of us need to do. Even if you go to a therapist, or even if you consult a doctor, they will always tell you, give you certain, list of things which you have to do from your side. Because even when, like, let's say you have fever, paracetamol or any anti-allergic only helps you little bit. Everything else is your responsibility. That means, avoiding cold food, or making sure that if you have fever, like, you're resting it out, right? So in the same way, when it comes to our mental health, there are a bunch of things which we can do, which will help us. If not immediately, over time you will see a change in yourself. And those things are, firstly, definitely a balanced healthy diet. Obviously you can eat whatever you want, but make sure that, you're giving your body the food it needs. Skipping meals a lot of times, for a very long time, will take a toll on your health, your mind plus your body. So what you're eating is super important. Especially we see that when we don't have a schedule, like in the times of pandemic, when you can wake up at any time and go back to sleep at any time, our food habits get very disturbed. When we used to go to school, as kids, we were so particular. Like, our parents would give us tiffin, we would eat in the morning, then we would eat during the break. And those were the years when we used to actually take care of ourselves, also because there were people to take care of us, right? Now that we are growing up, it is our responsibility to be taking care of ourselves. So your diet is super important. Obviously you can eat whatever you want, but make sure that you're giving your body, the nutrients, vitamins, and everything which it needs. You need to get proper rest and sleep. Sleep is directly related to mood. I cannot stress that enough. You must have found it in your life as well, that if you don't get enough sleep, next day you are very irritated. Or even if you get sleep but your sleep was very disturbed, you find that you don't have the energy levels to go through your day. So sleep and rest plays a very important part. And by sleep, it doesn't mean like lying on bed for hours, because then your body is not getting rest. Okay, so when we say rest, it has to be mind body rest, like a complete rest. So please take care of that. Try to have a routine, even if I know it can be extremely demotivating and you're like, we are stuck at home, what kind of routine we can even have. I'm sure there are things which you always wanted to do pre-pandemic, when we didn't have so much time in hand. Try to include those things. You don't have to keep yourself busy for 7-8 hours. Even if you have a routine for, like, let's say 3 hours, even that is better than having no routine. So try to have a routine, because that will help you to look forward to something, and it will not make you feel that you are not doing anything at all. Self check-ins are very important. I think we are living in the times wherein we ask others, how are you, what's up, but we fail to ask ourselves, how am I feeling. And there are days wherein you go by the entire day feeling irritated, but you actually don't know why you're feeling irritated. So I think this one practice helps so much, just to check in with yourself, like, how am I feeling exactly. Do I feel stressed? And if I'm feeling stressed, what is causing me stress, right? Like, let's say before the presentation, for me, I could have asked myself, how am I actually feeling. And if the answer is you're feeling stressed, then why am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling stressed because I have to present a presentation in front of everyone? So, those are the things, like a self check-in will help you get to the root cause of exactly what may be troubling you in that moment. Having hobbies is a very important part of life. Everyone talks about it. And again, we used to have a couple of hobbies when we were younger, but as we grow up, I think we kind of just get so much like involved in social media, in studies, in work, and in everything else, that we kind of don't pay attention to all these little activities which used to make us happy. So whatever your hobby is, whether it is cooking, whether it is painting, whether it is going for a run, it is your hobby. Please do spend some time in it. You can start with literally 10 minutes a day, and then it is up to you how you want to build it up. But having hobbies always acts as a distraction. It helps you a lot, obviously, because it is helping your brain channel the energy in a productive direction. It is it is taking away your mind from all these things which are affecting you and which are making you feel hopeless. So having hobbies is a super important part of our lifestyle, and I hope that you guys develop that habit. Staying connected is again very important. As human beings, we have this need of feeling connected with ourselves. When we don't talk to people, there are times when we feel very alone, and then suddenly we meet people, we meet our friends, and we feel that there is this boost of energy. We are smiling and we are happy, because that is what the power of connection has. So try to stay in touch with people virtually, if not in person, during the pandemic. Reaching out to communities and groups. There are a lot of non-profit organizations such as Speaking Grey and a million others. There are community groups, there are student-run organizations, exactly like WIE and IEEE. These are the groups which are always doing certain things, or they can be the resource for you if you are struggling, right? So you can always reach out to these communities, be a part of these communities, try to give a little bit of time to anything which can help you. You don't have to volunteer at an NGO just because someone else is doing, but whatever makes you happy, whatever adds a little value to your life and to your day during pandemic, please do that. It doesn't have to be a daily thing, it can be a once a month thing, but make sure that you're putting that effort, that additional effort, to your own well-being. And the last part, which is so important, that if you feel that on your like on your own or with your friends, you are unable to help yourself, and there is definitely like a cause of concern there, because you have tried everything and you're not feeling better, you're not doing better, never hesitate to reach out to some professional help. A lot of colleges do have counselor support. Even if counselor support is not there, you can always reach out to your teachers who you feel comfortable with, and let them know how you're feeling, or let your parents know or your friends know, and reach out to a professional. You will also find a lot of communities online. There are free toll free numbers. There is one organization called Samaritan Mumbai. So there are these organizations, especially they were running during the pandemic, wherein one person can just call them up. You can be anonymous if you hesitate about your identity, or if you don't want to share your name, but you can actually talk to a trained volunteer and they can help you feel a little better in that moment. And if you think that it is a larger problem at hand, um, there is no shame and hesitation is in reaching out to a therapist as well, because we do go to a doctor when we have fever. So in the same way, we can go to a therapist when we are not feeling well. So these are certain things which I would really encourage you to do. I'm happy to share this after the session as well, if anyone wants to maybe reflect back. And not much is left. So, like, the last thing which I would really talk about is that there can be never any health without mental health. As you can see, like, if this part is mental health and this part is physical health, the overlap is where your well-being lies. I don't think you will find any person who will say that only take care of your physical health and your life is sorted, or someone will say that only take care of your mental health and like you will never have a bad day. Those things don't happen. You have to take care of your entire body, which constitutes of your mind and your physical body. So whatever you can do in your power, please do that to contribute to your well-being. Just to give you a couple, like, just to give you a basics stat, that 1 in 5 people live with a mental health condition globally. That means in our entire world, if we take out sections, then and if we line up people, if there are 5 people, then at least one person will have a mental illness or currently lives with a mental illness. And obviously there are different kinds of mental illnesses. It could be depression, which is a very common mental illness. It could be anxiety disorder. It could be something much more serious as well. So yes, it is common, and that's why we have to talk about it, and that's why we have to take care of ourselves. uh, Even though mental, like, as I mentioned, that 1 in 5 people live with a mental health condition, what is so important to know is that one person may have illness, but 5 out of 5 have mental health. That means we can't dodge this. That means just because we don't have a condition today doesn't mean we will not have a condition tomorrow. And this is not to scare ourselves, but this is just to take care of ourselves. We take care of our bodies because we know that, okay, we don't have to fall sick, we don't have to get fever. It is not other way around. We don't wait for the fever to come and then take care of ourselves. So in the same way, when it comes to mental health, we have to have the same approach, that we have to take care of ourselves. And mental health is more than the absence of mental illness. What happens is that anytime people talk about mental health, automatically people think that it is depression and anxiety. Actually, depression and anxiety are mental health conditions. Mental health is a concept, like a general health concept overall. So I think that is an important distinction which people need to understand, and which we kind of get confused with, that every time we talk about mental health, we don't mean mental illness. It is every single thing which helps you to function in your day-to-day life. um, Again, I would say that reaching out for help is extremely courageous. So anytime you hesitate, you know just know that a lot of people don't get the courage to acknowledge that they are not feeling well. And it is extremely brave to have that kind of awareness, that I'm not feeling well, I'm not doing well, so I need someone's help. Mental health check-ins are super important. So anytime you are unable to understand why you are behaving this way, or what is causing you maximum stress, take some time off take a couple of minutes, ask yourself, why are you feeling, what are you feeling, and try to understand the root cause, which can further help you to uplift your mood. Self-care needs to be a priority during these times. I can't stress that enough as well. And self-care can look different for different people. Going out with friends or having a 2-hour call with a friend can be self-care for you, and for someone else, like a digital detox can be self-care. That means, just switching off my phone for 2 hours and just being with myself can be self-care as well. So whatever works for you, because it is called self-care, and that is why it will be different, like it will be different for different people, because it depends on how you are feeling, what kind of a person you are, what brings you happiness, and all those things. So yeah, I would definitely say that, anything and everything you can do to take care of yourself, please do that. You can always chat with people and see, what are the things which help them, how are certain things in life which they navigate through, and what helps them. Like sometimes, one person may have extreme exam anxiety, and you would see that at the same time one of your friends seems extremely chill about exams. So, in such cases, you can always ask that why you are getting anxious and why your friend is not getting anxious. What exactly is your friend's approach that they are able to stay calm before an exam, but you are feeling this extreme stress in your mind and in your body. So, by talking to people, we can always also learn something new which can help us. So, yeah, I mean, that is pretty much about what I wanted to share. I do have one exercise planned for everyone, but I would let that happen after a while. If anyone wants to say anything or add anything, please let me know, and then maybe we can do the exercise.
We have questions from the audience, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, Justine, sure.
Yeah, so it's from Jaya Raju. Ma'am, how to deal with the low scores, drag downs, and down comments in a day-to-day life?
Okay. So, Jaya, firstly, thank you for that question. I think it is so relatable. Every single person, all of us, irrespective of our age and our background, we have faced these things wherein, we have got low scores, obviously. No person is a born genius, and even and getting high scores doesn't guarantee intelligence. Yes, it's a great thing to be getting good scores, because it kind of shows that you worked hard for it, and that's a way of measuring how much you know, right? But please know that every single person goes through those times wherein they have not done that well in studies, or even if they have done well, they have not expected their own expectations. How to deal with it would definitely be, my advice would be, I have also been an engineering student. I've also had those moments wherein I've been confused about my career, and that happens a lot in life. People change their careers even after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. My only suggestion would be, like, your marks really don't define your worth. Obviously, as an individual, as a student, we give our best, but please don't beat yourself up for not scoring as much as you wanted to score, because there are so many different reasons attached to it. Maybe like there was some section which wasn't your strongest, or maybe the expectation of the examiner was different, because again, it depends on different subjects as well. So, please don't ever attach your identity to your marks. Yes, we need to care about how much we are scoring, and having goals. Everyone has those goals that I will get 90%, and that would help me in getting to this college. So all of that is natural and human, but beating ourselves up for not able to score good marks can be extremely unhealthy. I remember doing it as a child, as a kid, and I do think that it did me no good, because once you have scored something, that A does not change, right? You have already gotten the marks. Yes, we can learn from it in future. We can figure out that, okay, if I gave it 2 hours, maybe I will give it 2.5 hours, and I will change my preparation. So learning from it is the healthy way. Attaching your identity and thinking that, oh, just because I got like X marks out of this and everyone else has gotten better, they are better than me. That doesn't happen, because all of us have different skills. You could be great at public speaking, and a person who is scoring highest may not be. It is not a competition. So work on it slowly. It doesn't happen automatically, and judging ourselves is something which we get so used to doing that it happens. It can happen throughout your life, like you will also, we often judge ourselves with our peers as well at work, that, oh, this person is better at the job, or oh, this person got promotion, I didn't. So my first thing about scores would be that please know that it doesn't define you. You will see all sorts of people. You will see people who were top scorers in colleges doing well ahead in life. You will also see so-called backbenchers, or people who are not that academically smart doing really well in life. So life is so long, and all of us are gifted with our own talents, that I hope you can remind yourself to not attach yourself and your identity and worth to your marks. Regarding comments in day-to-day life, um, it's sad that some people around us find the need to say certain things to us, which can bring us down. I exactly don't know in what aspect you are saying about these comments, but I would definitely say that taking a stand taking a stand for ourselves, and drawing that boundary that you cannot disrespect me, or I don't want to be spoken in this way, is very important. And even if sometimes you feel that, oh, I could have taken a stand for myself and I didn't, it's okay. There is always a second time when you can. My advice would be that anyone who tries to bring you down, or anyone who's that kind of toxic, whether it is your friend or whether it is someone you speak to, know that it's not their best interest. That's why they are saying all these things. And as much as we can, if we have the opportunity to distance ourselves from those people, we definitely should, because your health, your peace, your happiness comes first, and then comes all these equations and friendships. And if this person, or there are people in your inner circle who are causing you who are saying hurtful comments, I think it is super important to also like tell the other person that, listen, this is not cool. I am, I'm not okay with you joking about this, or I'm not liking this. You can take that stand, and then you can see how the other person is behaving. If they continue to do so, that means it's a huge flag that you don't have to be friends with such an such and such person. And if they change after that, then great. So that is something I would like to share with you. Ma'am, how to handle social stress? Could you okay, Abhinav, could you please help me in understanding what do you mean by social stress? After having stress in workplace or social circle, one can generate anxiety issues. Yes, yes, 100%. I think anxiety is something, um, anxiety, depression, and all the other different mental health conditions. There has not been a single specific reason that, okay, this reason is causing your condition. It always says that there are biological reasons, there is your life events, there is just environmental factors which can also affect your mental health. So some people may experience depression after bullying, some people can experience depression after after losing a family member, some can experience depression and anxiety because they were abused at a young age. So different life reasons and different biological and environmental reasons can be the cause. And you're very right that if you have experienced any kind of workplace or social circle stress, you can develop anxiety issues. But let me also say that just because you're feeling anxious today, or you have been feeling anxious for, like, let's say 2 months, doesn't mean you will always feel anxious. Anxiety, what it happens is, anxiety gives our brain the signal of fight or flight, which is a survival mode. That means if I am scared of a dog, so when I see a dog, my brain flags me in two directions, fight or flight. By fight, I mean that I'm going to fight this situation. That means I'm not running away. I will handle it on my own. The other thing is flight. That means I see a dog and I run away because my brain is telling me that there is no other option. You can either fight or you can flight, uh, and just save yourself, right? So that is what anxiety does. Anxiety is an important part of anxiety is a very important part of our life because it helps us in dodging the dangers. Anxiety is actually like a survival tool, because if we wouldn't feel anxious, we wouldn't know whether we have to fight or whether we have to flight. In a lot of situations, flight mode is important, right? Whether it's a fire, right? You will not try to fight it. If there is a huge fire outburst, you will run away and you will save your life. So anxiety is important when it is in moderate conditions. But when you start feeling anxious, even in simplest of situations, like let's say while talking to you guys, if I feel extremely scared and extremely anxious, that is not right. That means I am getting scared about something which is not true, and my brain is tricking me and fooling me into believing that this presentation is a threat for me. So that is how anxiety can definitely affect you, and you're very right. um, how you can work with anxiety is that there are a bunch of different ways. Shanice, we will be doing one of the exercise which really helps me as well. It's called the anxiety grounding technique. So when we do it, you will see. But apart from that, I would say is that be patient with yourself. Do not beat yourself up for feeling anxious. Know that a lot of people get anxiety. A lot of times I also get anxious over smallest of things, and our reasons may be different, but at the end of the day, we all are human beings. So you can get anxiety because of exams, and I can get anxiety because of, like, let's say, like a presentation, just to give an example. And someone else can get anxiety only to step out of the house. So the reasons can be different. Know that your brain kind of gets wired to make you feel a certain way, and to you, like, to give you this idea that, oh, this is scary, something bad will happen. But no, something bad won't happen. So exposure therapy is also super important. That means anything which makes you anxious, take baby steps towards it. If giving a presentation makes me very very anxious, what I will do is I will take a small step. That means I will try to talk in front of one or two people more, and I will slowly see that, okay, nothing happened to me, nothing happened to my body, I'm absolutely fine, I'm safe. And that will give me the confidence to do this more often. So these are certain things I would say, but we can definitely, discuss it much more in detail. So yeah, that is my advice in general for anxiety. How to deal with those people who don't like us? Please give your questions here. Okay. Yeah, okay. So how to deal with people who don't like us? I would say that we don't have to deal with them, and that is honestly the simplest answer which you will hear from anyone and everyone. I know that this pressure of being liked by everyone is very common, especially in college. It happens a lot. I also have been a college student, so I know that if someone doesn't like us, we often feel that why this person doesn't like us, but we like we didn't do anything to this person. We are always sweet to them, we are always nice to them, and XYZ, right? But I would always tell you that ask yourself, do you like everyone? And when I say do you like everyone, I'm not saying that we hate people, but in terms of simplest of liking, there are so many people around us. Are you saying that you like every single person? It's not possible, right? You may like them from a distance, and you may be like, okay, this person is fine. You might not have like strong opinions about them, but as human beings, we don't like everyone. And in the same way, not everyone can like us. It is a habit and a practice which we have to develop, which where we need to understand where that disliking is coming from. If you had friends and they are having a problem with you, you can always have a feedback, like, is there something you are doing which has hurt them, so that's why now they are not liking you. But as human beings, there are so many different reasons which can come up. Some people just don't like the way you talk, some people just don't like you because they think your habits and interests are different. Some people think you are arrogant even when you are not. So you can only control your activities and how you feel and think. You can't control how other is perceiving you, right? Like right now I'm talking, some people can have a opinion about me and other people can have b opinion about me, and I can't change that opinion. Some people may think, okay, this person seems to be little arrogant, other may think that, oh, she seems to be approachable. So that is what I'm trying to get to you, that I, as a person, I can only control my actions and what I'm saying. Now what you interpret out of this will be your choice. If you are important to me, I would always sit with you, and I would always figure out like what about me you don't like, or where I can improve as a friend, as a daughter, as a student, as a sister, whatever. But there has to be a boundary, because we can't spend our entire day and entire life in just pleasing people. It can be extremely unhealthy. So yeah. um what's the difference between anxiety and curiosity in topics we work with? So okay, it's a very interesting question. I would say that, see, anxiety, if you have experienced anxiety, you would never call it a good feeling, because you feel it in your entire body. It makes you fearful. You feel it in your stomach in extreme conditions. Some people find that their palms are sweating. It is that thing कि जब वो first day of college होता है, sometimes you feel very anxious. Yeah, your job interview, because I'm sure a lot of you guys must be sitting for placements. So that is anxiety. When you compare it with curiosity is more like an experience and a feeling which makes us want to know about things. That, I'm very curious about space. I want to learn more about space, or I'm just curious to know more about mental health. So that is the difference. If I was able to respond to the best of your interest. But yeah, I think according to me, that is definitely, there's a huge difference, because anxiety is more like a part of our system. You can't dodge it, because flight and fight mode is what human beings and even animals are born with, that helps us to stay alive. Otherwise, when you will touch a fire, it will not, like, your brain will not get signaled ki, like it, matlab ki it's a threat, so either run away or like fight or whatever. And curiosity is more like an experience, like how I experience joy, how I feel excited about things. So yeah, that's the difference. Um how to deal with regret and guilt? um that's again a very, very nice question. I would say that, you know all emotions, whether it is your happiness, whether it is your sadness, whether it is your regret and guilt, all these emotions are extremely natural, extremely human. So never feel guilty of feeling these things, because it's a part of life. You will feel regret. Regret can be due to different reasons. Sometimes regret happens because of our own mistakes, but sometimes regret also happens because of someone else's mistake. That means, like, I trusted you, so that is a regret from my side, that I trusted you and you didn't turn out to be like a good friend, or like a good good support system. And then there can be regret that I didn't help my friend. That is also regret, right? So understanding where your regret is coming from is very important. If there is something which is in your power, you can do, like, let's say, if I hurt someone and I have regret about hurting them, what I can do about it? Can I just go and apologize? Yes, I can. So I will go and apologize. Now that is what I have done from my end. Again, as I said previously, I can only take ownership about my actions. Now, whether someone wants to forgive me or not, that is up to them. So, regret and guilt, because they are very tough emotions, in the sense that we are not taught to deal with them, it can feel very heavy. But three things are super important. That A, try to understand the reason. What is the regret? Is the regret more like, why this happened to me? Because a lot of things happen to us in life and to a lot of people, and we are not at fault. We don't deserve that. When like, when something, some unpleasant thing happens to a child, that child never deserves it. So is that regret, or is the regret coming from more, your own action? So once you know where that feeling is coming from, it will also help you just to direct that what are the action steps I can take. Guilt again, as a complex emotion, I would say it can come from anything, and it is correlated. because am I feeling guilty because I've done something which I shouldn't have done? And if that is the case, then again I can sit with myself and I can see, like, what I can do next time to do better. So with regret and guilt, specifically, please be patient with yourself. Certain emotions, certain feelings, they require little time from ourselves. You can't decide that, okay, today I'm feeling guilty, so by the end of today I have to stop feeling guilty and I need to, handle my emotions by today itself. No, that doesn't happen. You need little bit of time, so give yourself that time, whether it is like half an hour or whatever, but don't spend your entire day in processing those emotions. What one thing which can help is, like a lot of people say that you can carry like a worry diary or a worry time. That means give yourself that 30 minutes or 1 hour wherein you will solve this issue in your life, like let's say a regret or an anger issue or whatever. But don't spend your entire day in just thinking and thinking and, beating yourself up and saying that, oh, I made this mistake and I made that mistake. How to deal with actions of others or persons who are not in your contact, but still you get irritated and angry just by hearing their name, and as they are somewhere connected to you, like, okay. So this particular thing, I feel I would like to call it a trigger. So if you understand what a trigger is, triggers are things or people which can start a strong emotion in you. Okay, so like let's say what happens is that if someone has hurt me a lot, or if there is some person who I don't like, when I hear their name or I read their name, I can get angry, because there is still that emotion even when they are not around. The only healthy way to cope with this emotion is that we have to keep reminding ourselves that when you are hearing that name or when you are reading that name and getting irritated, the other person is feeling nothing. Okay, they don't even know that their name has angered you. So who is getting angry? You are getting angry. I know it is easier said than done. It can be very easy to say this, but in that moment you feel angry. So it's a practice which you build over time. Every time someone's name trigger you, try to take a couple of deep breaths, try to understand why their name is causing you anger. If you don't like the fact that you are associated with them, then cut off your ties. Like, whether it's a neighbor, if you don't respect them, that person is disrespectful and that person causes you harm, whatever, avoid that person. You don't have to talk to them, you don't have to meet them. Your peace, your sanity is more important. So check that. Second thing is, try to understand exactly what about that person is making you angry, right? If it is something they have done, then it will again help you to know what action you can take. But after doing these things, making peace and being patient is the only healthy way to cope with it. Because today these names are triggering you, I can write on a paper, after 1 year it will not. Or like let's say if it's a serious condition, obviously I'm not talking about those things wherein someone gets abused in childhood and like that trauma like goes on for years. I'm not talking about those cases. I'm just talking about like generally getting angry on hearing and thinking about certain names. So know that this is a momentarily feeling, and only you are getting troubled by them. So avoiding their names, doing anything, whatever, whether it is unfollowing certain people or like just avoid talking to them, all of those things can help you to build up on it. And then eventually, once you have this practice, you will realize that so and so person, you have nothing to do with them, and their existence is not bothering you because you're so focused on yourself and your well-being. How to deal with a bad past to move forward in life. um, so, can we convert a situation where we are not comfortable to one we can deal with? Does being socially active affect mental health, or is it fine as long as? Okay, so I will go by. Maybe I'll take Jaslene's question first. So I'll say that, does being socially active can be, like, it can be a very complex thing to understand, because for me socially active can mean that, oh, you are very active on social media, or, oh, you go out every day, you party every day. So there is no one fit for all. Like, let's say one medicine, like for fever, I may like paracetamol better, my body may respond to paracetamol better, and your body may, like respond to some other medicine better. So even when it comes to mental health and these basic things which can give us happiness, it is not a one fit for all. That means something like I can love yoga and you can absolutely hate yoga. So same goes for social life, socially active as well. It is important to be connected to people. I say that, I do think that, uh, I mean, people around us, our friends, our work colleagues, everyone, they can help us out. They can give us reasons to laugh, smile, cry with them. So it's very important to be socially connected. But how much active you want to be is absolutely your choice. It should never be a burden on any person. You should not think that, oh, my friend is going out every single day. I don't. That is why I'm not feeling, happy. Because sometimes you will realize that even around people you are not feeling happy. So happiness, there is no, there is no secret, solution to it. So obviously, socially active is something. As a concept, I think I would rather call it like being connected to people instead of saying socially active. So instead of focusing on like being socially active, try to be connected to people, because that connection helps you to do something in life, to just feel better and to just do better. So yeah, I think that is what I feel. And ma'am, can you convert a situation where we are not comfortable to one we can deal with? So this question is little complex for me to understand. Can we convert a situation where we are not comfortable to one we can deal with? 100%. I think again it depends on situation to situation. um, a lot of times what happens is a situation is uncomfortable for me, but it is not uncomfortable for you, because we are different people, we have had different experiences. Again, getting this example of, like, let's say giving a presentation, right? So earlier, maybe giving a presentation used to scare me, right? But now, how did I make it comfortable for myself? By taking small steps. And after like being in this field for a couple of years now, that this comes naturally to me. Earlier, I actually used to feel scared, if I would be talking to people, right? So I would say that yes, in every situation we do get an opportunity to make it a little comfortable for us. It entirely depends on the situation. Anytime you feel that that situation is going out of your hand, or it is taking a toll on you, the best thing is to eliminate yourself from that situation. Never try to fix something which is further causing you harm. That means two people's fight, some other people, two friends fights or whatever, you do want to help them out only to that extent wherein it doesn't affect you. The moment it is affecting you also, then you have just invited a problem in your own life, even when then like even when the problem didn't exist. So yes, you can make certain situations little bit comfortable by breaking it down. Instead of thinking that, okay, this is a mountain of a problem and I will solve everything today, try to go from like a bottom approach. Like, just tackle one thing at a time. If like like, let's say, like looking at 10 dogs make me scared, I will try to meet like one dog, slowly, with a friend who I trust, or like a dog I find very cute, and try to get myself to that situation wherein 10 dogs don't make me feel uncomfortable and scared. um how
Ma'am, we're
Yeah,
running out of time, so can we have an activity that we have planned?
sure.
Yeah,
As long as Jasleen, you are okay that I've not answered a couple of questions, I'm
it's
really
okay, it's fine.
okay. Okay.
Maybe we can come back to questions later after the activity.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So what I would want everyone to do is, if you guys have a pen and paper, just take that with you. I want, yeah, so like just a simple, like a diary, if you can see my screen, yeah, like just a diary and a um, pen. You can still see my screen, right?
We have to pin it.
Okay,
Can you stop the presentation and then start it again?
okay, stop sharing. Yeah, okay, okay. Yeah. So coming back to the exercise, so it's basically called grounding technique and it is called sensory awareness exercise. Okay. So what we are gonna do is it is we usually remember it by like five things, like like a hand gesture. So it'll help you like basically try this exercise at any time. But just take a paper and a pencil. I want you guys to draw five columns. So basically just like straight lines, um, just like five columns, one, two, three, four, and five. Yeah. So just draw these five columns, and then I want you to label them with your five senses. So, what are the five senses? It's the sight, eyes, what we can see, touch, sound, smell, and taste. So, just after labeling your, like, after drawing, like these five columns, just write them down. Um, you can take 1 or 2 minutes to do this. After that, once you have done that, I would want you to feel a little bit calmer. Try to get yourself to a state wherein you feel calm. I know we have had a like a little serious discussion so people can feel a lot of things, but I do want you to calm down. I want you to unclench your jaw. Basically what happens a lot of times, we are in this stiff position. So the first thing to relieve stress can be like just unclench your jaw. Drink water if you haven't. So if you have water around yourself, just have a sip of water. You'll feel a little better because it's also been 1 hour that we are in this present. We are in this session. Um, I want you to take like 3 or 4 deep breaths. You can do it at your own pace. And after that, once you have done all these things, I just want you to list these things which I have mentioned here. That means at least five things you can see. This exercise, to give you an idea, what we are trying to do is our brain is always and all the time busy. Even when you are listening to this session, I'm sure you are thinking about something else, and you are going to and fro, like you are here in mental health and then you are thinking about something else. This exercise, what it helps to do is that it basically tries to bring all our senses to this present moment. So we work with five senses, and that helps to get our attention back to the moment. So, and this exercise will also help you during the times when you feel extreme anxiety. Anytime you are overthinking, you're feeling extremely anxious, exam stress, family stress, something, sit down and do this activity, and you will see that for a couple of seconds or for a minute or 2 minutes, your brain is not thinking about those additional unnecessary things. So after you have made this column, and after you have unclenched your jaw, you have drank a little water, you have taken 3 deep breaths, I want you to identify five things which you can see in front of you. I, I want you to list down. So this can be the site. So like let's say the first column can be like site. So just list down at least five things you can see. Just I mean look around. You can even maybe you can see the wall. Maybe you can see the screen. You can see your pen and paper. So anything which you see around you, five things. List those down.
If the audience please turn on the camera so we can have this activity in one-on-one sessions.
Yeah.
Everybody please turn on your cameras. Oh, feeling shy.
No problem at all. So
Yeah.
those who can switch on their camera, great. If you can't, no worries at all. But please do take like 2 minutes. It's not a long activity. Do take 2 minutes to just do what I told you to do. Like a pen, paper, draw five columns. Just label them as sight, touch, sound, smell, and taste, which are your five senses. And after taking 3 deep breaths, I want you to write five things which you can see, four things which you can touch. So when I say four things you can touch, that means maybe you can touch your phone screen right now through which you are taking this call, or you can touch the laptop, or you can touch the pen and paper. So four things which right now your body can sense as a touch, sensation. It could be the pillow, under your, under your leg, or it could be anything else basically. So yeah, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, at least 3 things you can hear. So what are those 3 things which you can hear? Really pay attention in the moment. Is it the fan speed? Is it the AC working in the background? Is it some traffic signal around you? So whatever it is, um, try to get your attention to your senses and really pay attention and see what is it that you can hear. After that, move on to 2 things you can smell. This can be little tricky because we are not really used to a lot of smells around us, but I do want you to give yourself a couple of seconds to figure out if there is any kind of smell around you, whether it is like the perfume you use, or someone cooking in the kitchen, or like, I don't know, maybe flowers next to you, whatever it is. Try to list down 2 things which you can smell. And the last thing would be, again, a little tough to identify, but one thing you can taste right now. So try to focus if you can feel any kind of taste sensation in your mouth. I hope everyone is doing the exercise. 5 things you can see. I mean, at least 5 things. Obviously, you can add more things to the list if you are able to, if you're able to observe and sense more things. Then please go ahead and list it. It can be 6, 7, 8, whatever, how many you want. But minimum 5 things you can see, minimum 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Once most of us are done, if I could get a heads up, then yeah, we can just go go through the reflection question.
There's a doubt raised by Tanmay.
Okay, what is the doubt?
Um,
Yes,
Tanmay,
yeah, Tanmay, you can obviously just.
Yeah, when you say 5 things that we see, like what do you expect us to write in that? Like anything or like something particular?
No, it is not at all particular. As I was saying, that it can be literally anything which you can see in front of you. That means it could be your screen, it could be the curtains next to you. Just,
Okay.
yeah, these are your senses. These are 5
Okay.
senses of yours, and you are sitting in a, like a different place than me. So whatever you can list down, please list down.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we, like, most of us are done?
please write in the comment section if you are done. You can say yes or no.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So I do see that, like, I think most of us would have been done by now. Okay. So, okay. So great. What I want you to, like, recognize is that when we started doing this exercise, I'm sure that, automatically, even though it's a simple exercise, uh, most of us would have found it difficult to write down these basic things. And that happens to a lot of people. Why that happens is that we are not used to being present in the moment. That means every time I am somewhere, we are somewhere, how often or how rarely do we even pay attention to what we can see and what we can touch and what we can feel and what we can taste, right? You will hear a lot about like mindfulness, but we don't know how to practice this exercise. It's a very, very simple exercise. You can do it anytime. You don't have to write it. You can remember it by your hand as well. That's why there is this palm expression, I mean figure on the like on the presentation as well. It is 5 things you can see, 4 things, yeah, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. So this, it was not okay, great. So if it wasn't tough, then amazing. But if it was tough for any person, wherein you thought that, okay, I can't figure out 5 things, or I can't figure out 3 things which I can which I can smell, then that is basically a practice to develop upon. This particular technique will a help you to be in touch with your senses, b can help you to be present in the moment. Anytime you feel that your brain is very foggy, you are having a lot of thoughts, second or for a couple of seconds, it will clear your head of all the other things, and it will get you focused to this activity. A couple of expression questions which can help you after this activity, which I would want you to do it later on, not with me, because it's more like a personal thing, is that a, were you surprised by anything you thought to add to your list? Whether it was a taste, some of us may have tasted like coffee taste because we had coffee a couple of hours back, or it could be like a taste which we have not really consumed in the entire day, but we thought about it, right? So these are certain things. So do ask yourself this question: that were you surprised by anything which came during the list, and you were like, oh, I didn't notice this, right? Or sometimes we don't really pay attention to the chirping of birds or some distant sound which is around us, but the moment you had to do this activity, you had to put your brain to it, and you realize that, okay, this is also something which is around me. The second question is that, was your list extremely long or extremely short? Yeah, I did tell you to do at least 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? All those numbers I gave you. But if some of you were able to add more to the list, then amazing. Then you were able to observe more, be present more in the moment. In case your list was too short, then I would say, whenever you do it again next time, try to figure out what else you can add to your list, because anytime we are present, there are so many things which we can spot in front of us, so many sounds which we can hear if we truly pay attention, because we don't have this habit of kind of distincting, kind of drawing the line between all our different senses. So that is the second question which I would really want you to check with yourself. You can do it simultaneously. You don't have to, read or write. This is for yourself. So while I'm speaking, you can go through it on your own as well. Um, Third question is that, which of the items on your list do you experience every single day? So obviously a lot of things will overlap. The room you are sitting in, if you have written curtains, if you have written, like I don't know, like some smell, some flower which is next to your bed, obviously these are the things which you are experiencing every single day. So try to make note of those things, and every time you're doing this activity, try to add one extra thing which opens your mind to that thing, because you may not be experiencing it or noticing it every day. During this process, was there any experience which gave you a little sense of comfort? Maybe, like, let's say, the place you are sitting on, you may not have realized that, that that seating area is actually very soft and very comfortable. So did that give you any kind of, like a comforting experience? Or did you, smell maybe your favorite perfume, which again made you feel a little better? So try to understand how every sense made you, feel in that moment when you were listing it down. um, the other important question is that how can you increase the number of experiences that gives you pleasure, because gives you pleasure, comfort and enjoyment. So this is a practice which all of us can do anytime. And while doing the practice, if there is anything which made us feel happy, like let's say, smelling our favorite candle, or just touching something, playing with something which can be a stress buster. A lot of people use, play dohs and stuff like that to kind of relieve stress. So are there certain things which help you in any way, like visual sight, the things you hear? For some people, calming music really helps them out, like a meditation. So if these things are giving you any kind of comfort, then I would definitely, suggest you to add those things more in your day to day activity. As I was mentioning the last two part, that this exercise is a great tool to practice mindfulness. Anytime you feel and you experience that, oh, I've been too much lost in my thoughts, I have spent my entire day in overthinking, or so and so reason, whatever it is, try to do this activity, because it will literally bring you back to present, neither past nor future. This is where you are with your five senses. So please, do this activity in those moments. And it can also be a great calming technique to cope with anxiety. So anytime when our anxiety gets so high that we are unable to function, we are unable to, get going with our work, this simple tool can again bring us back and can like be a snap that, okay, your anxiety is just making you scared for no reason. So yeah, so basically this was our activity which I would want you to maybe make a note of it. It's very simple. You can literally Google it and find. It's called the anxiety grounding technique or the sensory awareness exercise. But if you do it, you will be able to see that it is actually helpful. And a lot of therapists actually recommend this exercise for anyone who's living with anxiety, because it can break that pattern of, overthinking, and it can bring you back to present. So that's honestly about the exercise. There's not anything else. I don't have anything to say unless someone thinks that we can go back to the questions.
I don't think so. Time permits, ma'am.
Okay,
So,
no problem.
coming to the conclusion, Khushi.
Ma'am, thank you so much. It was a really inquisitive session. And thank you for all the insights that you provided and all the questions that you answered. It was really appreciated. Ma'am, I would like to ask Vasanti ma'am to give a vote of thanks.
Uh, yes, yes, Kushi. Aditi ma'am, wonderful insights on basically what goes on in our mind all the time,
Yeah.
and maybe a lot of questions that the students had in their minds were sort of answered, or if not answered, at least they get some awareness on how to deal with those issues or those problems.
Yeah.
So definitely we need to look. I would say mental strength training is more difficult than physical training to gain physical strength. Because mental strength requires much more practice, more long hours of practice rather than physical health, I think, according to me. And I would just like to add one thing. Uh, what are the signs of a mentally strong person? Usually, when what are the signs that we have to look for if he has to be a mentally? I mean, you can just look at that person and we can say that, okay, this guy is mentally strong. What signs will tell us that this guy is mentally strong? I mean,
Yeah.
I will just, I don't know. You are the expert in this issue. But for me being, I have been here in the teaching field for quite some time, and I have seen so many students, and I have seen students of various level,
Yeah.
strength, mental strength.
Right.
And I have seen students who are at the top in terms of academics and
Yeah.
still, feeling nervous and feeling
Right.
down. And
Right.
I've seen students who are just cool, whether they are academically good or not doesn't matter to them. And I saw, according to my experience, of course, I want your feedback on this topic also. How do I identify a mentally strong person or a student, if not a student? So as far as I saw, I think, ma'am, somebody who you can say, who does not give excuses, uh, who does not waste time. I feel somebody who does not, who accepts themselves. Okay, I am like this.
Yeah.
Let me try to improve on what I am, and then they just accept that they are like this. That is also a sign of mental strength, according to me. I don't know
Yeah.
whether it is true. And I also feel mentally strong people, they genuinely celebrate somebody's success.
Yeah.
Because I have seen, somebody who is, they don't really worry that, they are more ready to cooperate. They are not ready to compete. They are saying, okay, you are good, you've got the award, fine, but I'm good at what I do. So that I also feel is a mentally strong person.
No.
And I don't know. And maybe mentally strong people are also, they don't show off too much. I
Hmm.
think that is also there. I think it's a showing off is a sign of weakness more than strength.
Hmm.
So I think that also is a very mentally strong person. They don't seek validation, you can
Yeah.
say.
No.
They
Yeah.
don't seek, yeah, mentally strong people don't seek validation from others. I do my job. So what is your thought, ma'am? Just a few words and then we can wind up.
For sure. For sure. Ma'am, I think you did yeah, I mean, touch upon a very strong topic.
I mean, we should look around and see, okay, and ask ourselves maybe whether I'm mentally strong by looking at all these points. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, like, more than like the factors which you mentioned, I think more than mentally strong, I would say, like, like a character strong. Like
Mm,
those are the things which definitely make, like, like a person with strong character.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
all of us should strive to be that person for sure.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say that it can be very difficult to kind of weigh in human beings and our strength in terms of, like, like, let's say, strong or weak and all of those things, because the thing is that a strongest person, or person with, like, the greatest character, so many things happen in life that in that moment they can feel extremely helpless and they can feel hopeless, but that doesn't mean that they are weak. They are
Yeah.
very brave to know, to go through life and
True.
to reach out for help. So I would say that the like the skills, the characteristics which you mentioned, I think each one of us should strive to achieve those. And I think it is a, like, a forever learning experience. I don't think at any point I can come and be like, oh, today I am the, I'm the strongest. Today I've developed all the skills I have to develop. I think
Yeah.
all of us, like, obviously, due respect given to every single person who's been in the like, professional front for a long time. But I think, even you would realize that a couple of years back you were a little different and now you're a little different. And
Yeah.
slowly, gradually, we all are, like, learning
Yeah.
and evolving. So I think
Exactly.
it's so important to, like, learn from each other. That I would definitely say. And yes, I think showing off doesn't do any justice and doesn't do any good to anyone. It is a very toxic and unhealthy skill, not skill, unhealthy trait to have. And no matter what, even in times of distress, I just hope that each one of us find the strength to keep going, if not, like, not for the next 6 months, but then at least, like, we can look forward to tomorrow. So yeah, that's
Yes,
everything I
sure,
would.
ma'am. That's wonderful. Thank you, ma'am. And I would really like to thank all the IEEE office bearers, and especially Jasleen, who is IEEE chairperson for SRM student branch currently, along with Kushi and her team and her entire team, who contacted you and made this particular day possible. And all the other members of the IEEE student branch who actually did some publicity, maybe some media exercise for getting some publicity on this web, and all the logistics behind this. Thank you to all, and definitely thanks to Sangeeta ma'am for always constantly encouraging us to come up with new webinars and other things on various topics. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And Jaslyn, you can wind up. I believe.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know.
Ma'am, I would like to request everyone in the audience if they could just turn on the camera for one moment. We require a screenshot, like a montage. Everyone, just for a minute.
Maybe you can pin only those people whose videos are there.
Yeah. Like, put the cam on and
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
don't flip the camera, maybe.
Trisha, Tanmay, I think, yeah, that's nice. Okay. Maybe
Okay,
yes, that's a
plenty.
good, pretty
Yeah.
good screen. Yeah.
It's done, Koshi.
Yeah.
So we can wind up with the session then.
Yeah, it's done.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for making this event a success. I think we can end the meet. Stay happy, stay safe and healthy.
And Aditi ma'am, please keep in touch with our students and with us. Yeah, we will definitely continue our association together. Thank you.
I would love to, come
Yeah,
again.
ma'am, even for NSS, we would definitely like to have you with us. I am part of the NSS also. I am one of the NSS faculty coordinators
It would
also.
be a privilege, really.
So definitely one day we will contact.
Thank
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Good day, ma'am. Bye, Jasleen.
Bye, ma'am.